My soldier project, nearing completion. All I have left are pants. Maybe boots, but I'm not going to get into cobbling yet, so we'll save that for another day. It has been a while since I've done a sewing project, so we may be touch and go for a little bit here. Keep everybody, aware. Step one is take my pattern. We did the pattern way back when. Remember that? I took a pair of Cavariccis, old 1980s Cavariccis. They were fantastic. Sized them, adjusted them, made them a little more uniform. Then I found this fabric at Joann Fabrics. Look at that. Look at that grain. That looks so I keep saying fantastic, but oh my goodness, I love this fabric. First step, I take my pattern and I trace it out. Now you don't need to see that because of course you watched the last episode where I was working on the pants. Of course you did. You wouldn't be here if you hadn't, right? So you know how I did that. You don't need to see me trace it if you've already seen that. If you haven't seen that, I have other videos. So the first thing I did is took it all inside, ironed the pattern. I like rolling my patterns, no folds, seems easier, right? And then traced everything onto the fabric. Let me pull you over here so you can see what I'm seeing. So I've got everything traced out. At this point, it's just grabbing my scissors and cutting everything. I roll it up to transport it just so I don't have to worry about stuff flapping around. I normally tuck the fabric or the pattern in there when I roll it. So now I'm gonna cut everything out. What are you doing? You've seen me cut fabric before. I'm just gonna cut the thing out. We'll meet back up then. You don't need to watch all this. Just as a quick reminder, this is what we're going for. This is what we're going for. This is an interesting, I really like the pleats. I like the pockets. I brought these out here so I can have a reference to look at. I'm gonna hang them up somewhere, but yeah, this is what we're working with. Start with pockets. I'm gonna start with the little weird hip pocket. Again, I'm not doing anything super special. I'm just sewing, right? A lot of people make sewing out to be this difficult, and to most, it's easy. It's my sewing machine. I love my sewing machine. I've been using it for a very long time. And when you start out doing a thing, not necessarily that great at that thing. Take your time. Nobody's gonna sit here and judge you. I surely wouldn't judge you for trying a new task, learning a new skill. None of it's easy. Going outside your comfort zone, super difficult to do. And if you're around people who are making fun of you because you want to try something new, sure reevaluate the people you're spending time with. I am an idiot. I didn't put the top thread on. Everybody makes mistakes, right? You're gonna do things and you're gonna be like, oh my god, I can't believe I did that. It's fine. Everyone has to start. This little hip pocket, right? This gets folded over and then top stitched. And then it gets folded down and then all these top. I haven't decided whether I want to interface this yet or not. I probably should. I don't have an iron out here. I'm gonna grab my interfacing. So this is a fusible interfacing. It's a 950F to be exact. It's fusible, which means you have to heat it with an iron to get it to seal properly. But I'm also going to sew it in place, so I'm not worried about it. It's got a bunch of little wax dots on it that when heated bond to the fabric. So now this gets folded over and then top stitched. This goes on the inside. Before then I'm going to tuck one of these in, so when I top stitch it, it locks everything in place. So I'm favoring one side because this side gets folded over. You can tell Kim was the last one using this. My speeds and feeds are real slow. She's gotten in the habit of standing at the island while she sews. That's a brilliant idea. This just gives a slight more rigidity to the pocket, just a little bit, you know. I want this to feel like a uniform, so I want it to be a little stiff. The pocket dies in this seam, but it needs to be sewn onto the top of the inside of the pocket, which is, so I've grouped all my fabric together, by the way. Flies, pockets, pant legs, reinforcement pieces. So this is the underside of the pocket, and that is where the little bitty pocket gets sewn. I don't know what I'm gonna put there. I don't smoke anymore, so probably not cigarettes. Or lighter, I mean. But I do carry challenge coins on. Maybe one of those. So I'm going to fold all of this over at about 1/2 inch. I'm going to pin it down and then I'm going to sew this little bitty pocket. I'm going to top stitch it, just these two corners, just because it seems it's a bit easier than trying to do the whole thing, you know. Because I could flip it over, bottom stitch it, flip that back over, top stitch it. I like quilting pins. They're bright, easy to see. When I inevitably dump them on the floor, they're easy to find. So all of this is going to be inside of a pocket too. So it doesn't even have to be close to perfect. But it is one of them stupid little details that, you know, I can't help but put in. Of all the videos I put out, these sewing ones make me the most self-conscious. Resin and prop making, you know, that stuff, that's easy. It's just you do the thing and the thing is done. Sewing is it's a personal thing for me. It's kind of not who I am, but something I've been doing for a very, very, very long time. And I guess it means more to me than just random resin stuff. Don't get me wrong, I love the resin stuff. I love the 3D printing, I love all that. But all before all of that was the sewing machine. So now I'm just going to top stitch this, come back here, do a zigzag, and then come back around. Just like I do in the flight suits. We've all seen the flight suit videos, right? I do just sew over my pins, by the way. The needle is round, the pin is round, and the needle is not. And for it to hit the exact point to where something locked in it, I just sew over my pins. Speaking of challenge coins, I may have to make a Soldier First Class challenge coin. I have the whole thing stitched down, right? I'm going to do a zigzag stitch right off the edge just to lock this piece in place. That way I don't have to worry about it. So when I put the two pant legs together, it's already seamed. And this pocket is done. It's got the little pocket. It's got a nice little detail on it. I like that. On to the next. There's an order of operations that has to be done on these pants. I'm not quite sure what it is yet. I have not made them before, so it's going to be trial and error here. I've made them before, but it's been a very long time. This is the front detail piece. That should probably be interfaced as well. I want the upper, right below the belt here, to be rigid. There isn't really a grain to interfacing, but there is a left and a right. So if you're using interfacing and you're not sure which side is the right side, one of them is smooth and the other has a bumped texture. It's the bumps that are the wax dots. So always iron with the wax dots facing your fabric. I'm probably going to end up ironing a lot of this because I'm going to want a bunch interfaced. I know I want the back support panel, the front support panel, which is this, and probably the fly all interfaced, which means they'll all have to be ironed. But for now, I can be done with this. So now according to this, I have this stitch detail on top. I'm not sure I feel about it yet. I think I like it enough, I'm going to leave it. I skipped the top one because that's where the seam is. The actual seam allowance. If you're sewing, remember to sit upright. And my back hurts the next day, and I'm like, why? Oh yeah, because I sewed. It's not because I sewed, it's because I sewed improperly. Luckily it's black thread on black fabric, so it's not as important for me to be super straight with my lines, but I'm going to try. And the blue, well, these are black too, but they're very old, clearly. I'm going to bring this into Resolve and go, oh my god, it was like 18 hours. That's a long video. Hopefully I can edit it down to like 20 minutes. That seems to be my sweet spot with videos. Some YouTubers can go for hours without even saying a frickin' word. I get a video that's like 15 minutes long and people are freaking out. It's a long video. No, it's not. Now we got to find the front of the pants. So these pants have a lot of box pleats, which is weird for pants, but you know, the whole point of doing this is because these are weird pants. Top of the pocket gets sewn on next, and then it gets flipped inside out, just like we're the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. It's 80s and all, you know. So that makes a definitive left and right. So now I want to flip this inside out and top stitch all along this pocket. I'm going to top stitch right close to the edge, and then I'm going to turn around and do the second stitch, just like I did with the little coin pocket. Since we're working on the pocket, I want to finish the pocket now. Move all this stuff out of the way. We don't need it just yet. So here are the pants. I have no idea if you can see any of this, as we're dealing with black fabric as usual. This goes in here, right? And then I stitch the entire outside so the pocket is full. It's one solid piece. I may do a zigzag stitch along the top, but probably not, because that's where all the pleats are, and this actually dies in one of the pleats. So the first thing I need to do is stitch down and around on both sides. That's what it looks like on the outside. I wish there was an easy way to film sewing, right? Since I don't use a serger, I'm going to do a zigzag stitch all around what I just sewed to lock the edge, and that way it doesn't fray on me. And my zigzag stitch is going to be kind of wide, and one side's going to fall off the edge back and forth, just like a serger does. It's called an overlock stitch. Since I have the zigzag on, I'm going to stitch this little bit right here, where the pocket, all these pockets meet. I'm just going to do one stitch right here to make sure everything stays as one solid piece. That way I don't have to worry about it folding up or doing anything weird. And this is going to be inside the seam allowance, so it will never be seen. That's what the pocket's going to look like. Plenty of room for a hand, stuff in there. I'm happy with this. This looks nice. I got the two of them side by side here. I want to make some marks, try and get everything a little more even. So this ends, this first pleat, the inside of the pocket, it's a 1-inch pleat, and it is about 1 inch from the edge. So if we go about 1 inch from the edge, and then 3 inches, that makes a 1-inch pleat, because this folds over to there. So I'm going to pin that now. I'm doing all of my measurements from this pocket edge right here. We're just going to keep measuring over the same way. This is also a 1-inch pleat. That is 2.5 from this pocket. So now this whole process is a very odd order of operations, because this front panel does weird things, right? Because it doesn't come all the way down. It's got a extra panel that goes on top. The pocket goes all the way over. It's interesting to say the least. 4 1/4, and it is also a 1-inch pleat. These are probably set up in some weird millimeter. Before I get to this point, I need to sew this top piece on. So I'm going to fold it over. I'm going to stitch it to right about here. So I still have all the seam allowance underneath. That way when I fold this over, we can fold this down and do the top stitch for that. So now these box pleats are sewn down 2 inches from the top. So I'm going to fold this open right at this, where this pin is, and then sew down 2 inches. I'll fold these both open, sew it down 2 inches, and then fold it back over. Those of you from the 80s who are wondering why Cavariccis were so expensive, the answer is because there's a lot going on these pants. Now this one gets folded, the last one gets folded, and it gets sewn with this top pleat in place, or this top panel in place, which is just kind of a weird origami we got to figure out here. Like I said, this is all just a weird origami at this point. Everything to lay the way it's supposed to. Fold it at that seam. And we line everything up and stitch the top. This is one of those I gotta trust the process moments, because something seems wrong. I'm not sure what it is yet. Hope it was that. Okay, so now I do not go all the way to the end on this one. I go right about to where the pocket starts and then stop, because I have to hook the side seam up first. Now we find out if any of that worked. I would say remarkably well. So they added this detail to cover up everything that they did in this little corner. But there is top stitching right there that I think I'm going to do. Although I should wait until the side is connected. Let's put the side together now, right? Since I keep fighting with it because I can't do that, let's just do that. And this just gets sewn. So I'm just going to do one stitch all the way down along the hip. I'm going to do a zigzag back up, and then we're going to fold it over and top stitch. I knew my cuff was going to be a disaster, by the way. I'm probably just going to end up putting stirrups on it, since they're getting bloused into boots anyway. Whenever you're doing a top stitch on a hip, you always want the waist to go towards the back. So your stitch is going to be opposite the pocket. It just makes things easier. The back of the pants have this pleat in the back that we have to figure out now too. Luckily, this front panel ends at the back of the pants. So I can just sew this on, flip it out, and then whatever is left over is my pleat. Less thinking. The less I have to think, the better the project tends to be. The less I have to think, the happier I tend to be in a project. There's enough people in this world trying to knock you down. Don't knock yourself down either. So there's a pleat here that is top stitched. And then this piece dies in that top stitch. So I stitched this 1/2 inch. Then I'm going to cut that, and everything should fold properly. If making clothing was easy, everyone would be doing it. It is easy. It's just, you know, a little complicated sometimes. I do not like that at all. Did a weird. I folded this the other way, the pleat part of it, and I think that's what messed everything up. So I'm gonna grab a seam ripper, aka a razor blade. I'll be right back. I knew as soon as I stitched it that I wasn't gonna like it. So I've been sewing for an extremely long amount of time. In general, not today. And I still make some mistakes. I still do stupid things. So if you also make mistakes and do stupid things, don't beat up on yourself. No idea when the camera decided to stop. But here we are with the pants. This half is completely done. I am super happy with how they look. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. You don't need to watch that. Of course, the second side went way faster and better than the first. If I were to do a dozen of these, I'd be fantastic by the time I was done. So I'm going to put them right side to right side, stitch this middle, which I guess is the butt crack, and zigzag stitch, fold over, top stitch. Just like we've been doing with everything else. We're at the zipper part. I hate zipper parts, but this is where we're at. I'm going to pull you in so you can see what I'm doing. This isn't a tutorial on how to do zippers, by the way. There are much better people out there who can do this. I have the zipper. I marked down 3 inches because that's where the buttons go. And since it gets 2 buttons, it's kind of a bigger gap. This just goes right along this edge. This folded piece just goes right there. So when it all zips out, it all comes out that way. So I'm just going to pin, put my zipper foot on, which is also which I also use as a cording foot. There are actual zipper feet. I don't use them. They're actual cording feet. I also don't use them. This one does just about everything anyway. I'm going to fold this over, pin the whole thing, and sew it. Alright, the other half of the zipper gets sewn to this piece along the edge, but it just gets top stitched. The easiest way I found to do that is to put it where you want it. So it also goes 1 inch in from the edge. So I'm going to mark that just so I have something to work from. But to line everything up properly, all I usually do is put that there, try and line it up as best I can. Usually if you line one edge with the other, it tends to be pretty close. So now I just reach underneath without pinning to all of them. I just pin that to that. I can fold it like this and just stitch all the way up too. This is one of the few times that I use pins lengthwise. And that's just because zippers are so thin, it's kind of hard to actually hit them properly. So then I just stitch all along here. I'm going to use the same zipper foot, and as soon as I'm done with this, I switch over to the normal foot, and I'll do a zigzag along there just to reinforce it. Now is where we make them into pants. So I take this long straight edge from the zipper, and I sew it, inside out by the way, to this other straight edge on the pants themselves. And then we're going to fold and top stitch and do a bunch of stuff. First, we're just going to sew that. The 2 seams just get sewn together and then reinforced right where everything meets. Zigzag stitch, and then we're going to fold over and top stitch. I'm going to start the top stitch on this front side where the zipper is, just because I think that's going to make my life a little easier. So now, since these 2 flaps are, I want to do a stitch all along this front flap to keep everything together. And I keep looking at it like it's going to change. I'm only doing single top stitching on a lot of the detail here, just because I think it might look the best with this pair of pants. Where I'm making them to wear on a regular basis, which I may do because I really love these, I'd probably do it a little different. There's one last stitch on the zipper, and that is right where this tab folds over. There's normally a reinforced stitch, so I'm going to just do a quick zigzag back and forth right there. It just helps everything lay proper when you're wearing them. We'll say this, these pair of pants have gone remarkably well. So the button is on. I think that's going to be perfect. Neat. The question is, do I do belt loops next? I want 12 of them. They're 6 and 6. So I'm going to sew these, then turn them right side out so they're tubes. I should probably have done just one real long tube. Matter of fact, you don't need to watch all that. That sucked. Belt loops are done. If I do this again, one solid strip, and then I'll cut them into pieces. Oh my goodness, turning each one individually, that was unfun. So let me pull you in, show you how we, or where we're putting them. All right, I'm going 3 inches over from this seam here, and then I want to go down 1 inch. And we pin the first one 1/2 inch past that, so we want to go down 1.5 inches. So it'd be way easier than trying to measure. And then we pin this here. I'm going to do a zigzag stitch along here, fold it over, and then do a top stitch, fold this and do a top stitch. That's pretty much how belt loops work usually. The next one's going to be, so I'm making sure that the seam is on the inside. So when I fold it over, it's a nice clean belt loop. I am waiting to put the next row of belt loops on until these belt loops are done. I really want to know exactly where they land, how everything looks. So like I said, I'm going to do a zigzag on the bottom here. I'm going to try and go right on the edge and then over the edge. And when I fold it over, I'll show you at that point when we get to that point. All right, put the first row of belt loops on. All I did was do a real tight zigzag stitch and folded it over and did a real tight zigzag stitch. There's nothing super special about it. I'm probably going to drop it down a ½ inch and do another set. So there's a little bit of a gap all the way across. First, we're going to do the back panel. This is the inside panel. It's a reinforcement seam. So I am, of course, going to interface it. So just like the other side, heat it up. Then I'm going to stitch the two small sides together. And we'll see where we're at then. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sew these two short seams together. And then I'm going to do a zigzag stitch to finish the edge on this curved side. Now, starting at the middle, in the middle back, I'm going to pin these and work my way around with right side to right side so I can flip it right side out. Then I'm just going to stitch all the way around. Standard ½ inch, flip it around, do a top stitch. You don't need to watch that. That's easy. All right. Top has been seamed, nice and finished. Do another belt loops. The belt loops are going to hold the inside, the bottom belt loops are going to hold the inside back down. Like I said, I want ½ inch. So then I'm going to mark a full inch so I can put the next belt loop. So I'm just going to do the same thing all the way around, just like I did with the top row. I'm going to mark down an inch, put a belt loop, zigzag stitch, fold it over, reinforce stitch, fold it, and then reinforce stitch. Belt loops are on. That was a lot of belt loops, but you know, it's 2 belts worth. There's 2 things left now. I have the inseam, which is what we're doing now, and then buttons. And buttons are kind of neat. At least on this machine, they're super easy to do. So next thing I'm going to do is the inseam. I just match the inseam up, I stitch it, zigzag stitch, that's it. All that's left on the pants are buttonholes. And I picked up these cool little buttons, right? I picked them up when I was working on the Alchemist, and they're what I'm going to use for this. So the other pants have them at ½ inch and 2 inch. I think I want to go 1 inch and 1 inch. And I got a cool little buttonhole maker. I'm going to pull you in so you can see this one. This is kind of neat. All right, this little foot, it's got this thing in the back, right? Put the button in, and it sets a little opening. I pick out what buttonhole I want, and on this one we're going for just a standard buttonhole. We want to put it at the far end of where we want our button. Line it up, put the foot down, select it, and then put my foot down on the pedal. And then you slit it open, and that's it, right? But other than that, we're done. Got to stitch a couple of buttons on. Then we get to try the pants on, try the belt on, finish the strapping, dye everything, and then it's done. I know, right? Just that? Yeah, just that. Pants are done, and they look fantastic. You'll see those in a minute. Now I need to make the suspenders that actually hook onto these little loops, and they're complicated, right? They're this shape. I made 3 of them because there's 2 in front and 1 back. And I tried wet molding this one and it just didn't quite work. So we're just going to glue. And I'm going to glue, all 3 of these are the same by the way. I'm going to glue the entire middle part here. Then I'm going to fold it over, put more glue on this side and then fold that over. So I have this loop that these straps can loop around and snap into place. So the first thing I need to do is I'm going to put glue on the entire inside here. I'm only folding it over 1/3, so I'm going to book match it. Book match? No. Book fold it. I'm going to book fold it. But I'm putting it over the entire thing so the other side acts as primer anyway. I am just going to put glue here to here and then fold it over. I have my cutting mat still out because, you know, it's more resilient than the horse blanket underneath it. Now we give it 10 minutes to cure. I fold it 1/3 over. I was thinking about stitching it, but I don't think my sewing machine can go through 3 layers. So then when I fold the other layer over, it's going to have a nice arc to it, which is what I'm looking for. I'm going to put contact cement over the whole thing again, give it another 10 minutes or so, and fold the whole thing over and hit it with a hammer. Alright, now I wait 10 minutes. So this is what you get, right? When glued to the side, it's going to make a perfect loop for these straps to go through. It's going to look like that. It's exactly what I want. But the glue's still a little gummy, so I'm going to clamp them and leave them overnight. And pick this back up in the morning. I've marked where I want these to go, and I have already applied contact cement. I put witness marks. I got 2 on this one, and one on this one, since they're not 100% identical, I want to make sure I put the right ones in the right places. I did the same thing with the back panel. Just wait for everything to tack up, hit it with a hammer, and then we're going to come back when I put the other side on, which is pretty much just going to be right next to the first one. But, you know, we'll see. So I ended up just setting it next to the other one. I like how that looks. It looked fantastic on the back, which we'll almost never see. But I'm just going to curve it around and put it back down. Then I'm going to hit it with a hammer. A little mallet. I'm going to give it probably an hour to do its thing. We'll measure the belts. So all that's left at this point is a couple of snaps and the die thing. That's it. I've measured them and they're both symmetric. They've both been wet molded for a bit. So I'm going to cut a radius and then put in a snap. And that should be about it. So all the straps are on. All the snaps are in. I dyed a test piece and I really like how that looks. They're going to go well together. It's not identical. It's not identical, but you know, I think it's going to complement each other well. I may try this other dye, which is a little darker, just to make sure. I have all the stuff taken off. And in the end, I think I'm going to go with this one, which is the darker of the two I picked. So this is the dye I decided to use. It's russet. It's just Fievings leather dye. It's standard dye. I've taken all the stuff off of the suspenders. So I'm just going to go one coat over everything. Then I'm going to top it, and we're just going to let it be. It's going to take probably a couple days for it to dry. I want to make sure that it's got a top coat, everything's cleared, and I don't have to worry about it transferring color to anything else. So here it is. Super happy with it. It looks, it looks spot on. It's exactly what I wanted. I'm super happy. There's a couple things you'll never know about a costume until you're wearing it. I may put some foam underneath so I don't rub my shoulder raw here. I probably need to figure a way to get these straps to stay here. I may just put 2 large pieces of Velcro down. That'll make sure everything stays in place. The shoulders tend to droop a little bit. The back, oh my goodness, I am super happy with this costume. I don't think there's a single thing about it I dislike. I may, at some point in time, sand these back down and smooth them out a little bit. I'd say it's good at 3 feet. Good at 3 feet is pretty much all I ever hope for. But the pants, perfect. The belt, amazing. The suspenders are great. The shoulder pauldrons, they move like they're supposed to. Oh my goodness, am I happy with this costume. This is fantastic. I love this. It's also finished. It's in air quotes. I need better boots, right? Because they're supposed to come up to like here and then fold down. I got some on the way. I'm not going to cobble them. Just because they're not here for the video doesn't mean they're not here. I'm probably going to end up redoing the Buster Sword just because I want it to look nicer. And this is just insulation. It was a quick Halloween costume. I want something a little more rigid. Right now the handle is the heaviest part, so it tends to flip. I need to figure out how it's going to attach to the back. But those are not things that are going to be this. That's not this costume. I could go out to a con like this and people be like, it's a soldier. They might not go Angeal, which is what I'm going for. But when I have Genesis next to me, suddenly it's Angeal and Genesis. As long as things are close, people do the mental shorthand. I'm probably going to get new buckles for the belt, or make new buckles, but that'll be a metal casting video anyway, so it's, again, not part of this series. I'm going to say Soldier First Class is done. Which means it gets put in a bin, labeled. I may cast a thing for the bin itself. That's about it. I'm happy with it. So, end of the video. Thanks for making it to the end. Hope you didn't just fast forward to the end and actually watch the whole video. I hope you watched the whole series. If you like how this turned out, give me a like, right? If you think I've earned it, maybe subscribe. Share the video. That'd make things fantastic for me. Other than that, I can move my hair in this costume. There's certain ones you have where you're just like, you can't quite move, like Stormtrooper. Stormtrooper can't do anything. This guy can do just about everything. I'm happy. I'll see you next time.